to teach internationally. Bhante Kusala helped children, youth, and adults with their spiritual counseling needs. In 2018, he was invited to the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara to continue his Dhamma service. So please welcome Bhante Kusala. Let me see if he is already here. Oh, he's already here, yeah. Hello, Bhante ji. Hello, Bhante Kusala.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, so I have introduced you before you joined. So I think you're all set to start
Okay.
to talk. Yeah.
All right, so can I share the screen?
Yes, please.
Sorry to keep you all waiting.
No, you are good. You are at perfect time.
Okay. Perfect. So today I'm invited to speak about Anagarika Dharmapala. He inspired us in my childhood. I remember speaking about him, giving speeches about him, because in our Sunday schools, we have lessons about him, and especially when we do competitions, usually between and among our own Dhamma school children and students, we choose Anagarika Dharmapala and we speak about him because he is well known in Sri Lanka, very well considered a public character and someone who really was revolutionary and supportive of upkeeping Buddhism and bringing it to safety, I would say. So let's learn about him. And thank you very much for the opportunity and inviting me to speak about Anagarika Dharmapala. So some of you may have heard about him and some may be learning about him for the first time. But as you will learn today, he is important not only for Sri Lankans, but also for people in India, Buddhists in India. And he is also important for the Buddhists in the world. So this is a portrayal of him as a monk, as you can see in this very first image of him. And you will also observe that he's just seated in a cross-legged manner, putting his robe to cover his shoulder, and he still has his hair. And this is kind of halfway between a monk and a layperson, but mostly toward a monk. He lived a celibate life in his life, and I will explain what led him to do that, and the decision for him to remain this way, and how he thought about himself and his career as a monk as well as a layperson. So he was not a monk until he was an elderly person. He was in his late 60s when he decided to become a monk. Until then, he lived an anagarika life, a celibate life. And I will explain the meaning of his name in a different slide. So we'll be learning about his bio, his works, and present. Okay, so he was born on 17th of September 1864 in Hittatiya, Matara. So I'm not from Hittatiya, but my hometown is Matara. So I know this area very well. This is like a town area in Sri Lanka. At that time, Sri Lanka was called Ceylon. And he died on April 29th, 1933, aged 68. And he had other names, Don David Heva Vitarana, and later Venerable Sri Devamitta Dharmapala after his ordination. So he's best known as a major reformer and revivalist of Sinhala Buddhism and a leading figure in the Sri Lankan independence movement against the British rule. And you can see his signature here in Sinhalese writings. So he's known for the independence movement, revival of Buddhism, and representing Buddhism in the Parliament of World Religions in 1893, and his Buddhist missionary work in 3 continents. And he's also noted as a first global Buddhist missionary and one of the founding contributors of nonviolent Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism. So this is nonviolent, and I think this might ring bells on Mahatma Gandhi to you. And a leading figure in the Sri Lankan independence movement against the British rule, as I said earlier, and a pioneer of revival of Buddhism in India after it had been virtually extinct for several centuries. So this is a major work he did. And the first Buddhist in modern times to preach the Dharma in 3 continents, which is Asia, North America, and Europe. So when he was born, he was given an English or a Christian name as David Heva Vitarana. And his father was H. Don Carolis, and he was a wealthy founder of a furniture manufacturing business. They were among the richest merchants of Ceylon at the time. His mother was Mallika Heva Vitarana, and Mallika is that famous queen in Buddhist literature. And the family was obviously Sinhalese origin. His younger brothers were Charles Alvis Heva Vitarana and Edmund Heva Vitarana. So Don David Heva Vitarana attended Christian college in Kotte, this is Colombo area, and St. Benedict's College, Kotahena, and St. Thomas College, and also Colombo Academy, which later became Royal College. So these are still there in Sri Lanka. These schools exist, and they are still a few of the best schools in Sri Lanka. So this is the background. When he was born, the country had been under British control for many years. And that means that Christianity had replaced Buddhism, especially in coastal areas in the country. And people who adhered to Buddhism, whoever wanted to practice Buddhism had to do so in disguise. Even monks had to choose white clothes to remain disguised, and if they wore robes in a certain period, there were death threats against these monks, and also temples were being destroyed, libraries were being burned, and the Bible being presented in Pali language. And I have seen that Pali Bible in University of Peradeniya, a library in Sri Lanka, where I did undergraduate studies. So there was pressure among people, and there was a need for someone to represent these people, someone to give a voice. And especially when you come from a wealthy family, you have some influence over the society, and especially when you have good education, it also helps. And when you have English education, it helps even more. So in this, in the background, like when Anagarika Dharmapala was doing his studies and, approaching his youth, Sinhalese culture was largely lost as a result of 300 years of foreign occupation in the country. Dutch, Portuguese, and British were in the Sri Lankan lands, and they were even controlling Sri Lanka. The most of the middle and upper middle class population, especially in the coastal areas, had taken Christian names, including his own family. And even David was sent to missionary schools for primary and secondary education because it was a practice at the time. So these schools I mentioned earlier, like St. Benedict Anglican School, and then later St. Thomas Collegiate School, Christian values were emphasized in these schools, and the church attendance and Christian religions instructions were required. Throughout his education, however, Heva Vitarna did not lose his belief in Buddhism, which is his ancestral faith. He became influenced by most well-known Buddhist leaders at the time. These were monks like Venerable Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thera and also Migittuwatte Sri Gunananda Thera. These are public figures in Sri Lanka, great orators, and there were debates they won against the Christians, and these debates have been publicized, and there was a lot of winning moments in these debates, and Dharmapala was inspired by these monks. Heva Vitarana found that he much preferred the two these monks' simple lifestyle over those of missionary teachers for whom he had little respect. After witnessing a riot that broke out after Christians attacked a peaceful Buddhist procession, Heva Vitarana became disgusted with the hypocrisy, the claiming of beliefs one does not actually hold or follow. These he thought were hypocrites, that they preach about non-violence and peace, but these Christians attacked the peaceful Buddhist procession. So they were, just in Sri Lanka you can see processions out of respect to the Buddha. People come to a temple and they do a parade, across the village and then return to the temple, and usually there will be donations and there will be elephants walking peacefully, and there will be religious symbols being carried out by children, and there will be dancers, there will be drumming, and this is a long procession, and the whole road is occupied with them, and these may have also included some voices against Christians, and I think although in the processions they may not have raised that voice, but again, Christians may have found it intimidating and they may have attacked this procession. So when Dharmapala happened to see this, that they were attacked, these peaceful people in the procession were attacked, he felt like the Christians preach about peace, but they were hypocrites. So he started actively showing his disgust against British and their religion. And then he immediately dropped out of school to study on his own. So he also got foreign influence, especially from the Theosophical Society. Sri Lanka received a pair of interesting guests. One of these is Helena Blavatsky. She lived from 1831 to 1891. She also is the founder of the Theosophical Society, a mystical, religious, and philosophical movement that combines Buddhist and Hindu beliefs. This society really aimed to helping Western audience to investigate the universe and humanity's place in it by becoming closer to the divine. So Blavatsky was accompanied by the society's co-founder, Henry Steele Olcott, 1832 to 1907. The two had come to Ceylon to learn more about Buddhist principles. So they were both very sympathetic to what they understood of Buddhism. So they were getting closer to Buddhism at the time. And in 1880, they arrived in Ceylon, declared themselves to be Buddhists, and publicly took the refuges and precepts from a prominent Sinhalese bhikkhu. So this Sri Lankan monk gave 3 refuges and 5 precepts to Henry Steele Olcott and Blavatsky. This was done publicly, and you can imagine when white-skinned people have come to Sri Lanka and taking 5 precepts and 3 refuges. This is like pricking on the eyes of the Christians. And they didn't want that to happen because mostly they were trying to convert the already previously Buddhist Sri Lankans into stronger Christian beliefs, but now things are different. Foreign missionaries coming to Sri Lanka and adapting to Buddhism, converting to Buddhism, was really attracted public eye. So soon after their arrival, they began studying with monks, bhikkhus. Especially these ordained monks declared these people as Buddhists publicly. And after Dharmapala dropped out of school, he met Blavatsky and Olcott, and he joined the Theosophical Society. He already had the Christian background, and he started kind of getting interested in what is taught in other faith traditions. You can see Dharmapala here. He is called Srimat Anagarika Dharmapala, even at the age of 29. Srimat is a title which is like His Excellence, His Excellent, or something like honorable, also something like elite. So these, of course, because he comes from a wealthy family. And here he's posing for an image. At the same time, he's kind of reading something. He's looking at something he brought, probably. And he has a lot of hair in this image. And also the chair he is seated looks like one of these kind of elite type. So this was him at the age of 29 in 1893. So what is the meaning of Anagarika? And what is the meaning of Dharmapala? So Dharmapala means protector of the Dharma, Anagarika, this is a Pali term. Of course, both these are Pali terms, Dharmapala and Anagarika. So Anagarika in Pali means homeless one. So, which means he has left his wealth and family and dedicated his life to close to living as a monk. So it is a midway status between monk and a lay person. As such, he took the 8 precepts that includes refraining from killing, stealing, sexual activity, wrong speech, intoxicating drinks and drugs, eating after a noonday meal, and also entertainments and fashionable attire and luxurious beds. He renounced all of them. For this, he took for lifetime. It's such a great dedication. And that way he can completely focus on his work and his missionary work. So these 8 precepts are normally taken only on a full moon day by lay people, but Anagarika Dharmapala took them for lifetime. So he became very distinguished, very respected among everyone, including among the monks. So it is highly unusual for a lay person to take 8 precepts for a lifetime. And he was actually one of the first Anagarikas, if not the first, that we see is a celibate person, full-time worker for Buddhism in modern times. And he's also considered a Bodhisattva. So when he took a vow of celibacy at the age of 8, that was really, in his younger days, he remained faithful to it all his life. So it shows that he's very much disciplined since childhood. Although he wore a yellow robe, it was not of the traditional monk pattern. He did not shave his head. He felt that observance of all the monastic rules would get in the way of his work, especially as he flew around the world. So neither the title nor the office became popular, but in this role, he was the model for lay activism in modernist Buddhism. He is considered a Bodhisattva in Sri Lanka because of his ideal character and the way he gave speeches and his purity in conduct. So his trip to Bodhgaya was inspired by an 1885 visit there by Sir Edwin Arnold, the author of The Light of Asia, who soon started advocating for the renovation of the site and its return to Buddhist care, because it was under some other rule, some other non-Buddhist person. So Arnold was directed towards this endeavor by Valigama Sri Sumangala Thera, one of the monks in Sri Lanka. So at the invitation of Paul Carus, this Arnold returned to the US in 1896 and again in 1902, 1904, where he traveled and taught widely. So saving Bodhgaya, in 1891, he paid his first visit to the holy places of northern India and found them in a very neglected condition. Some of them were no more than ruins. The Maha Bodhi temple at Bodhgaya had been restored by General Sir Alexander Cunningham, but there was no one maintaining it. And when Dharmapala arrived, he decided to look after it until Buddhist monks could take over. However, the temple belonged to a Hindu abbot, and there ensued a long legal battle with Dharmapala, finally lost in 1906 and owned by Buddhists now. So he founded the Maha Bodhi Society in Sri Lanka and raised funds for the restoration of the most important Buddhist sites in both Gaya and Saranath, which had been badly deteriorated after centuries of neglect. And then Dharmapala also was a great writer, so he became the editor of the society's journal and became world famous as a Buddhist missionary who worked for the spread of the Buddhist Dharma in India, Europe, and America. So in the expansion of the Maha Bodhi Society's work, initially Maha Bodhi Society comprised the task of restoring Bodhgaya to something of its former splendor as a sacred site, but the scope of the society's activities soon expanded to involve the promotion of Buddhism in India, and eventually the development of Buddhism throughout the world. So even now, Maha Bodhi Society is actively promoting Buddhism and organizing events, conferences, and supporting temples and schools, and doing so many activities around the world. I myself remember giving a presentation in Maha Bodhi Society on Abhidharma at the time, and they had a conference organized called Dharma and Dhamma. So they compare Dharma from the Tibetan and non-Buddhist traditions and Dhamma from the Theravada tradition. And there will be scholars presenting articles, and in those deep scholarly presentations, they talk about these Dhamma facts in depth, and that is, part of the work that Maha Bodhi Society is still doing. But again, Dharmapala broke with Olcott at some point, and here's the reason why. Eventually broke with Olcott and the Theosophists because Olcott stands on universal religion. So one of the important factors in his rejection of the Theosophy centered on this issue of universalism. The price of Buddhism being assimilated into a non-Buddhist model of truth was even ultimately too high for him. So Dharmapala stated that Theosophy was only consolidating Krishna worship. So to say that all religions have a common foundation only shows the ignorance of the speaker. So Dharma alone is supreme to the Buddhist. So, let me explain this. For Dharmapala, when he compared Buddhism with whatever else, like Theosophy, Unitarian Universalism, Christianity, Hinduism, he did not want Buddhism in the same place. He said it is just the ignorance of the speaker, which I think in a way is hinting at Olcott. And when Olcott himself gave speeches, he may have put Buddhism in the same value, and Anagarika Dharmapala may have been slightly, I don't know if this is the right word, pissed or offended by that decision of Olcott. So Dharmapala then said, Dharma, Buddhism alone is supreme to the Buddhist. So his passing away happened in 1933, and at that point he was ordained as a monk and died at Saranath in December of that year, so at the age of 68. So this is a statue of Anagarika Dharmapala in Saranath. And if you happen to visit Saranath, you can offer some flowers and show your gratitude and transfer merits to him for a happy home in samsara. So when he became very famous, you can see that he represented the Parliament of World Religions, which is a major event in the history of religion. And from left to right, you see in this image Virchard Gandhi, and on his left side, Anagarika Dharmapala and Swami Vivekananda, and then G. Bonnet Mori. So his famous writing called The World's Debt to the Buddha in 1893 was read to a crowded session of the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago on 18th of September, 1893. All these are prominent figures in Asia and in the West. And you can see like he's seated in a kind of a significant way, so sort of like not giving any care to anybody. as if like, I know the truth, I know the true faith, I know the true religion, and I'm confident in it, and I'm not influenced by any Western influencer. So the World Parliament of Religions, in 1893, Dharmapala was invited to attend to it. As a representative of Southern Buddhism, which was the term applied at the time to the Theravada. So he was a great success, and by his early 30s, he was already a global figure, continuing to travel and giving lectures and establishing viharas, temples around the world during the next 40 years. At the same time, he concentrated on establishing schools and hospitals in Ceylon and building temples and viharas in India. Among the most important of the temples he built was the one at Saranath, where the Buddha first taught. The Buddha gave his first sermon in Saranath. Here in 1933, he was ordained as a monk and died there in the same year. Previously said 68, and here it says 69. This is his handwriting, a letter he wrote in 1902 to a friend in Japan. You can see A. Dharmapala, still A means Anagarika. And also right above 1902, you can see 2046 or something. This is the Buddha era that they calculated and wrote. They wanted the Buddha Varsha, Buddha era written in those letters, and this is still a practice in most of Buddhist writings. So he had these anti-Christian thoughts, as Buddhism was often portrayed in the West, especially by Christian missionaries, as pessimistic, nihilistic, and passive one. And Dharmapala's main concern was to counter such claims. So in later stages of his career, he kind of used his voice to raise a big roar on anti-Christian tone, and it became more evident in his later years. So he should be understood in the British colonization of Ceylon and in the presence of British missionaries, and how he was kind of the main figure who gave a voice to the suppressed Buddhists. So this is why Dharmapala is part of Protestant Buddhism in his work. He was a Protestant Buddhist in a way, although there's no such thing. Buddhist is a Buddhist, but perhaps Christians named him as a Protestant Buddhist. So Dharmapala used the Darwin's theory of evolution, which was cutting-edge science at the time. As part of his attempt to show that Buddhism is consistent with modern science, he was especially concerned with evolution. He said, you see, even science proves that there's evolution and that this world is not created by a creator God. So in this way, he was able to approach to many hearts across the world. As he spoke, he was using science references and Buddhist references, and that way people understood him better. So this is what, the work he did: praise, blame, fear, hope, PPFH. So one of the primary contributors of the Buddhist revival of the 19th century, this is how he did it, this praise for Buddhism and Sinhalese culture, blame on the British imperialists, those who worked for them, including Christians, fear that Buddhism in Sri Lanka was threatened with extinction, and hope for a rejuvenated Sinhalese Buddhist ascendancy. And in his public speech, this is actually the words he used. This bright, beautiful island was made into a paradise by the ardent Sinhalese before its destruction was brought about by the barbaric Vandals. Its people did not know irreligion, Christianity, and polytheism, which is Hinduism, and are responsible for the vulgar practices of killing animals, stealing, licentiousness, lying, and drunkenness. The ancient, historic, refined people under the diabolism of vicious paganism introduced by the British administrators are now declining slowly away. At present, his birthday anniversary is celebrated every year with lectures and cultural programs in many Buddhist and Pali educational institutions in Sri Lanka and in India. And his legacy, you can see a stamp of him from 2014. India and Sri Lanka issued postage stamps to mark the 150th birthday anniversary of Dharmapala. In Colombo, a road has been named in his honor as Anagarika Dharmapala Mavata. Mavata means street. The biographical film Anagarika Dharmapala Srimatano on life history of Dharmapala was released in 2014, where Palita Silva played the role. And these are great sayings of Anagarika Dharmapala. Let me be reborn. I would like to be born again 25 times to spread Lord Buddha's Dharma. Exert yourself to realize the unconditioned, infinite, eternal happiness of Nirvana in full consciousness in this life on this earth. Buddhism is a kind of spiritual athleticism. It teaches you the way to develop your spiritual muscles and to strengthen your spiritual tendons. If another does your work, where is the glory of your effort? So that is all from me today. And now the stage is open for questions.
Thank you, Bhante. Bhanteji, it was such a wonderful talk and so much information about Bhante Anagarika. So before I say anything, I just want to announce that we just have 9:30. It's 11:36. We just have 9 minutes for question and answer because, as you already know, Buddhist monks, they take their meal once a day, and that has to be before noon. So we have to let go Bhante Kusala at 11:45. So we will have minimum questions today. I would like to ask a simple question, Bhante. So I know you talked about the 1893 World Religious Fellow, that the conference that happened in Chicago, and I also saw that Swami Vivekananda was also present in that conference. But I heard a story that Swami Vivekananda got an invitation because of Anagarika Dharmapala. So how true that story is?
I'm not sure. This is the first time hearing that.
Okay, because I read something online, so I just don't know. I don't have like exact resource or anything. So
we did discuss about Swami Vivekananda in one of our Harvard classes, actually, and even there, because there is, we were reading a book in that there was detailed, story about the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago, and the shy demeanor of Swami Vivekananda at the time, and how he became world famous kind of immediately after. He was India famous, but not world famous, right? And but maybe this may have some truth. Of course, Dharmapala, since he had lived in India for a long time, he must have really, and because of Olcott and Blavatsky, he may have come across Vivekananda even before they met in Chicago. So it's highly likely that they knew each other. But the invitation to Parliament of World Religions, I'm not sure.
No, I think what I
Maybe,
heard, like, sorry, go ahead.
maybe like when, of course, when they organized it, they may have asked, each other, who should we invite from India, then the reference may have been given that way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bhanteji. Thank you very much. So we have one question from Sathinath. Please go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, first of all, Namo Buddhaya and Jai Bhim. I'm a little unaware of Buddhist history in Sri Lanka. If you could shed some light on when it came and also about Hindu traditions, how much Sri Lanka was influenced by Hindu religion and so forth. I would please
Yeah. Well,
thank
as
you.
far as the history goes, Buddha visited Sri Lanka 3 times. And again, King Ashoka, the Emperor Ashoka, sent his son to Sri Lanka, the Arahant Mahinda, and his daughter, Sangamitta Bhikkhuni, to Sri Lanka with the sapling of the Bodhi tree. And they did huge promotion of Buddhism. They were influential because they were Arahants, and they converted the king, and the queen also became ordained. And since then, the predominant faith tradition in Sri Lanka has been Buddhism, about 75% so far. And this is a huge majority in Sri Lanka are Buddhists. Hindu influence has been there since, since the beginning. And even now, when I grew up with statues. There's Buddha kind of in the top position, and then little lower, you find gods and goddesses, these statues of Vishnu, Shiva, and all of them that my father also offered flowers and lamps to. So they did not have a big establishment in Sri Lanka, but the elements of their existence still there. And in Tamil regions, they follow these little shrines and gods and goddesses. And so it's about, I would say, some 8%, people following Hindu tradition. And there are also Hindu temples across the country, mainly in northern and eastern parts of the country, because of their close proximity to India.
Just one more. Has caste system made its way into Buddhist thinking?
Unfortunately, yes. But again, those who are aware of the Buddha's actual teachings really don't promote any caste practice. They don't accept it, they renounce it. But I need to speak the truth here, that even when monks are given ordination, sometimes they check which caste you belong to. And sometimes they don't admit you because you belong to a certain caste. And this is totally against my understanding of Buddhism. And I would not promote it. And again, there is caste system also in Sri Lanka, but not as strong as in India. People don't fight or destroy others because of the caste.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
So we just have 3 minutes. Pankaj, please go ahead. You can ask your question within 3 minutes. We have to wind up.
Thank you.
Vandami Bhante. Vandami Bhante, this is Sheetal Meshram from Denver, Colorado. Bhante, thank you very much for highlighting the importance of Anagarika Dharmapala in spreading Buddhism. My question, Bhante, is you mentioned about, and I've also heard previously that Anagarika Dharmapala has been titled as a Bodhisattva. So was that during his lifetime that was given, or who gave it to him, like it's a title, or is after his death that was given? Bhante?
That I'm not sure. I think there is a tendency of people in Sri Lanka, even now, to name someone a bodhisattva, although that same person would not admit it themselves, especially when they are celibate and also pure in conduct and are public figures. And but when I learned about him as a child, I did not learn about him as a bodhisattva. But in later writings, here and there, I would find that term about, kind of, this is like an adjective used to describe him. But we don't know how much of it he would have liked, or whether it was ever his goal to be a bodhisattva. But he had expressed interest in being born again and again to promote Buddhism.
Sadhu, 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 Bhante.
I think we can stop here and let Bhante go. Thank you, Bhante, for joining today, and we hope to see you again in future for future Dharma talks. Yeah,
of course.
I know you have been part of this online Vihara before, and we will definitely love to have as a first speaker again. And
look forward.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful
rest
of the day.
Take care. All right. So before we conclude our session today, we have an announcement to make. So I would like to invite Chatak. Chatak, please go ahead.
Jai Bhim, Pradeep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, good. Good morning, Jai Bhim all. My name is Chatak Dhakne from Michigan. I'm an ANA team member. So, every year, ANA schedule ANA members retreat in the month of May in Memorial Day weekend. So this year also the team has kicked off the activities. And in this retreat, ANA announced the 4 main awards, which are Dr. Ambedkar International Award for 2022, Savitri Mai Phule International Award for the year 2022, and Dr. Ambedkar International Lifetime Achievement Award, and Mukh Nayak Excellency in Journalism Award. So we have kicked off the activity on working on this award. All the members will get the nomination form by tomorrow. And you can, identify, nominate the community leaders who work toward the Ambedkar's movements. So you please nominate those leaders in those nomination form. You will get that by tomorrow. Also, ANA gives the award to the ANA volunteers who works on the various ANA programs. We call these ANA Volunteers Jai Bhim Awards. There will be ANA board member, ANA team member, and any volunteers who worked on these activities can nominate someone from the ANA team or any volunteers you can think worthy of this award. Please send an email to anaawards@gmail.com. That's AANAAWARDS@gmail.com. Add about 5 to 10 lines of each nominee's volunteering activities from year 2021. And if you think it is necessary, then go ahead and add a 2022 activities as well. So I will send information by email in a day or two when we will close that. But you can start sending emails from today. That's all. If you have any question, you can ask me. Okay, I guess that's it then.
One more announcement. Smita, if you can go ahead and announce the Maryland proclamation, that would be nice if you are there, Smita.
Pankaj, I don't see her there.
Okay, I think we can make an announcement on her behalf. So yesterday, state of Maryland has also proclaimed April 14th as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Equity Day. So that happens to be the third state now within the US, and most of these states should be coming on board, if not this year, next year, and we need to kind of work towards that. I just wanted to kind of congratulate the local team there for getting these activities done, working towards having these proclamations being announced by the state governments. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. Thank you, Pankaj and Chatak, for announcements. And we will see you next Sunday, same time at 10 a.m. See you then. Bye.
Namo Buddhaya. Jai Hind.
Mm.